In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Another lecture on the introduction to the understanding of the Quran is presented to you. The sequence is such that we are presenting the introduction to the Quran in the form of small questions, and then their answers, so that through these questions and answers, we can gain an introduction to the Quran. This is because having knowledge of the introduction to the Quran is extremely important for understanding the Quran. So, let's take today's lecture. Question. Today's lecture question is, what was the second phase of the Prophet's, peace be upon him, mission like? And what was its outcome? As I mentioned in my previous lectures, the first phase of the Prophet's, peace be upon him, mission, transitioned from a secret phase to a public phase. This was the period during which a fierce struggle had begun between the Islamic movement and the old ignorance. This intense conflict continued for about 8 to 9 years, moving beyond mere opposition to the very survival of the ignorant system. Since the Quraysh were entrusted with leading the Arab ignorant system, not only the Quraysh, but also other tribes around and near Arabia, who were bound by the ignorant leadership of the Quraysh, came out in support of the Quraysh. This was due to their servile dedication to the polytheistic religious leadership, aiming to preserve the leadership of the Quraysh and the system of ignorance. It seemed that the Quraysh and other Arab tribes were keen to preserve and maintain the system of ignorance at all costs. They made every effort to suppress the nascent movement of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that is, the Islamic movement. In this opposition, they resorted to false propaganda, accusations, various doubts about the blessed personality of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and numerous objections to him and his message. Their propaganda included sowing various types of doubts in people's hearts, to keep them away from the Prophet Muhammad's, peace be upon him, movement and message. It became their routine to prevent uninformed people from listening to him, and for those who accepted his message, it became a norm in their lives to face brutal oppression. Alongside this, they faced economic and social boycotts, to the extent that many of them were so tormented that they were forced to leave everything behind and migrate to Abyssinia, twice solely to save their faith and religion. However, the Quraysh made desperate attempts to bring them back from Abyssinia to continue their oppression, but they failed. During this time, the movement and its supporters faced. The more oppression they faced, the more vigorously the movement continued to grow and flourish. As a result, there was hardly any family in Mecca that did not have at least one member who had become a supporter, helper, or member of this movement. These successes of the Islamic movement caused, day by day, the anxiety among the Quraysh continued to grow as they saw their own close companions, friends, and relatives joining this movement and standing against them. What was surprising was that those who were breaking away from the society of disbelief to become part of this nascent movement were people of such virtuous and pure character that, upon witnessing their conduct, the world of Arabia began to sense the superiority of this message. This was the second phase of the invitation, during which the struggle between truth and falsehood was reaching its peak. During this time, the caravan of truth was also being trained through the revelation of the Quran. The revelation of commands regarding the awakening and strengthening of Islamic consciousness was also ongoing. The Islamic movement was being adorned with teachings of piety, virtue, morality, and purity of character. They were being encouraged with promises of success and glad tidings of paradise, while on the other hand, the opponents were being warned with references to the destruction of previous nations to desist from their opposition and understand the call to truth, accept it, and enter the Islamic fold. However, the opposition was advancing towards its peak, which caused the tension to intensify. Now, let us consider the outcome of the second phase of the invitation. The result of the second phase of the invitation was that, through this very invitation, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had, with his perfect wisdom, extended his influence among the tribes of Medina and the tribes of Medina had accepted the invitation of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Thus Medina was ready to provide a much more favorable environment for the invitation compared to Mecca at that time. Therefore, the Prophet, peace be upon him, was commanded to migrate to Medina. And then the caravan of invitation and love migrated towards Medina. Thus this movement. As a result of the first and second phases of the invitation, the environment of Medina became available. This is the discussion related to today's lecture, in which we have completed our conversation regarding the second phase of the Prophet's, peace be upon him, invitation, and its outcome. Alhamdulillah, today's lecture is complete. In the next lecture, we will strive to discuss more about the introduction to the Quran. From this platform, I invite you to come towards understanding the Quran. This is the word of Allah Almighty, revealed according to human nature. And this book is very easy. To understand the Quran, we have an excellent series on Quran comprehension. We have started in the form of small lectures. Once again, I invite you to come and understand the Quran through these small lectures. My mission is to spread the knowledge of the Holy Quran to every corner of the world. But I cannot do this alone. I need your help. If this message has touched your heart, and if you believe in spreading the light of the Quran to the world, then please like this video and share it. Together, we can reach those who are searching for the right path and who wish to improve their life in the hereafter. See you in the next lecture. Until then, take great care of yourself. May Allah protect you. Peace be upon you and the mercy of Allah.
إن هذا القرآن